folks, welcome back to another Battling Brushes video. Rob and I took about a month and a half off, kind of by accident. We did mean to do Spectre Ops last month, and we are going to be getting back around to Spectre Ops, but there was just so much going on last month with the Kickstarter and all of the other stuff that came along with that, and just keeping the content being churned out. It was just, the month got away from us, so I apologize for that. But we are back full force now, and this month we have a lot of miniatures that we're going to be painting for you because this is the fulfillment month for a auction item from the Jack Vassal Memorial Fund that was run at the tail end of last year, and the person got to choose what game we do this month for Battling Brushes, and the winning bidder chose Arcadia Quest. Now, Arcadia Quest has a lot of those, I don't know if it's anime or if it's manga or whatever it might be, but it has a different style, almost a chibi style of miniature that's going on there, and so there's they do have to be painted a certain way, so there's a little bit of a different style, but not really. A lot of the same painting styles can be applied to them. It just sometimes, at least for me, it takes a little bit longer because they're very detailed miniatures. But enough of that. This week, I'm going to be taking care of the Hammer Beastmen and the Spear Beastmen in Arcadia Quest, and then Rob is going to be doing the Orc Marauders and the Goblin Archers. So, without further ado, let's get to it. All right, so first off, I'm going to take a hack at this Hammer Beastmen, and as you can see from the card, it has a pretty simple color palette to it, just grays and some yellow. Some browns and stuff like that, and then the hammer is going to have some whites and stuff. So it's a pretty simple. It's a pretty simple color. So what we're going to do is start with the base coat, the skin, and just go from there. And again, you want to make sure you thin your paint out just a little bit, not too much, because you do want it to get good coverage and all that good stuff. So just kind of make sure that you give a good color, good coverage. That's what we're looking for. And again, I want to say right now that this is probably after having practiced already. These models are probably some of my least favorites so far to paint, but you know, that's that. But again, the models are amazing. I just don't like the proportions of it, that's all. So I usually like to start on the edges and then fill in later on. So you can usually do whatever you'd like to do, but that's just what I like doing. It's a little bit simpler for me. This base coat, you're not really worried too much about getting on other things because you're gonna paint those too. But you do want to try to make sure you are getting good coverage on the skin. You probably have to do 2 coats. That's usually better because it's a lot better to keep all that detail. So with that being said, I'm using a Mournfang Brown on his bracers here. And again, we're not really concerned so much about the edge of the bracer, but we do want to kind of be careful with not getting on the gray skin that we've already got done. So, I mean, you know, worst comes to worst, you have to come back and touch it up. So it's not that big of a deal, but at the same time, we want to try to save as much time as possible. And so now we're going to go back and touch up some of the accents on his neck, his collar thing here, and then on his bracers in some, it's called Auric Armor Gold. And it's just to make it pop a little bit. And here I usually just have the brush at I guess it's a perpendicular angle, so I can just touch the top of that little design there, like so, just so that it pops a little bit. And just keep doing that. Try to make it a little, a good little top on it as well, so that it does pop well. Okay. So again, this doesn't really take a steady hand. You just have to have the right angle, and then the brush does the work for you. It's pretty simple. Now the next thing I want to do here is hit the eyes. Now if you look at the card here, he has orange or reddish eyes, and so I went with a Wild Rider Red to do this, and this is pretty. This is where kind of a steady hand has to be used, but at the same time, their eyes are bigger than usual because of the design of the model. So it's a little bit easier than normal. I usually am not very good at eyes at all, and I'm not really good here with eyes either, but I'm a little bit better with these guys than I have been in the past. So really you just want to let the brush do the work for you and moving around into those crevices, and then flip the model around and do the same thing. So it's kind of like you're just painting two halves of a ball. Alright, next thing that needs to be done here are the teeth. And the teeth on these guys in this entire game actually seem to be of primary importance. So we're going to be using some ceramic white to really make his teeth pop here. And so it'll have a pretty cool effect too. And we're looking to kind of cover as much of this as possible. Now again, you see that the white is really standing out because of the darkness of everything around it. That's what we want. We are going to go back and hit this with some Nude Oil as well, so that there's some differences there, and you'll see it has a pretty cool effect. So just stay tuned. I know it might look not very good right now, but it will. I've already done this once. Now for the Nude Oil, especially in the teeth here, I'm using a smaller brush so that I don't get too much of it anywhere else. But it's basically just going to fill in the crevices and maybe even some of those spots that we messed up on earlier, so it really can help you out a lot. Alright, and then using the same Nude Oil, you're going to go maybe get a little bit more in, and then you can hit the beard as well, just so that the crevices and the parts of the beard, the recesses of the beard, are all well covered. And there's a lot of depth to that little goatee thingy he's got going on. Okay, now this hammer is going to have a little bit of a dry brush on it, and I'm going to use Screaming Skull as the first side of it. So again, just kind of a light go over, like so. And this is just the first color that we're going to be putting on this. So we're also going to be coming back with a ceramic white to give it a real crisp pop, especially on the edges. But again, this is not a whole lot of paint you're dealing with. Matter of fact, I was just using the paint that was left over from doing the horns, so you don't have to use a whole lot of paint on this at all. And the main thing here is you want kind of an even consistency. So come at it from a bunch of different angles. You want all the corners and stuff like that to be caught pretty well with all of the with the texture that's there. Need even less ceramic white than we needed with Screaming Skull, because we really don't want a whole lot of Screaming White on there. I mean ceramic white on there, but we do want those things to pop. So just a bit. Makes a real subtle difference, but a difference all the same. And so these Hammer Beastmen are ready for battle. And now for the Spear Beastmen, I went ahead and did the base coat on the skin, which was a War Boss green, and had to do about 3 coats to get it fully covered. The black primer underneath just wanted to keep showing through. So now I was able to take some scrag brown and did his loincloth and the bracers and everything like that. Loincloth in the back as well. I also took some Urshan gray and did his helmet and this little upper arm band, whatever it's called there, and then his belly plate or stomach plate, I don't know, it's protecting his abdomen, I guess. But start working on the hair. Now if you look at the picture, the hair is kind of a not really a white, but not really a blonde either. It's kind of in between, so I went with a Xandri dust. And then just follow the flow. Just like normal, you're going to have to put a few coats on probably. That's okay. If you do it right, the different coats can actually have a little bit of a shading effect too, so give that a whirl.
So I'm really excited to be back, really be excited to get going on this project. So hey, let's get down to the table and see what we can do. Okay, today, getting down to the table here, I'm going to be working on the archers and let's just call them the guardsmen for now, for Arcadia Quest here. Now, instead of spraying these guys, I actually took some flat black and I put it on there and I put a thinner coat on there. Okay, so we're going to start with these guys here, and the first thing that you want to do is you want to get their skin on. And the way I do these, especially these kind of anime type figures, is to just make sure that you get a good coat of green on there. You want them bright because after all, it is all about that anime type of look. So we won't be using a lot of washes through this whole paint through this month. So if you're expecting me to just douse things in wash, guess what? It's not happening this month. And what I usually like to do is I don't worry about how close I get on things here. My whole point is to just get the paint on there as best as I can. Let's zoom in here a little bit. There we go. Yeah, I'm using a Hauser medium green for this, and it's just making sure that we get everything in there. And that's the whole main point here, is to just make sure that we get good coverage. Don't worry about getting on the fur because we're going to go over that. We just want to make sure that we get everything, the knees. So you can just wipe in there, make sure you get the knee joints. You can see they're very cartoony, which is fine. And we'll let that dry off to the side here. And we'll take the other guy here just so we can get a quick look at how we're going to paint that up. Now here I kind of like, especially since the hair is black, I try to stay a little bit neater, but I'm not too worried about it because I'm just going to go over it anyways. And I've got a bunch of these to do, but we're only going to show you one. And again, just taking that green, working it into the facial structure. You want the brightness there. And his little, you can see he's got a little hair that hangs over there. But we're getting a little green on there, which is fine. And we're just going to work that up over there. I want to get his stomach. And pretty much everything else on this guy is green. Now for this guy here, for the most part, whoops, this guy here for the most part, we're just going to take some Beastal Brown here, just go around, take care of his belt area, clean up those areas that we went over on the skin, but we want to be very careful here. We want to get it where we just kind of get that in there and work it around. We don't want to get the skin, because we can always touch, you know, no matter what you do, no matter what mistakes you make, we can always make it up. But we just want to come as close as we can without hitting that skin that we worked so hard to get done there. And we want to get all that beastal brown onto the areas there and just really make that shine there. So I'm going to keep working on this here. You want to take the beastal brown and just go over that bow ever so easily. And again, don't worry about, you know, hitting areas that you're going to run, you know, going over the, you know, catching the skin again, because we can go back over that. And we want to get the back of the, there we go. Alright, it's coming together. Now, as you can see, I've got pretty much a lot of the base colors on here. I've got the brown, I've got the green, his hair is still black, and then some touch-ups that need to be done. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you something here, and this is using a paint marker, which, especially for figures like this, these anime figures, you want to be able to take the areas with the paint marker. And the reason being, that's how you're going to get really good coverage. Like, you take a look at his mouth there, and you want to bring out those teeth. Well, the only way you're going to be able to do it is with a paint marker. It's a lot easier than doing it with a brush. I mean, some people can do it with a brush, but I like using a paint marker, especially for drawing things. You know, like he has some markings on him. So I'm going to take the paint marker, and I'm going to do my best here. It's easier to draw it than it is to paint it. It's got the little thing that comes down here. And then right over the eye, there is a little marking here. And it's easier to draw something than it is to... That's one guy done. And all we did was just very simply just put our brown here, our brown on our bow, leave the black for the hair. You know, nothing too complicated here. Nothing you haven't seen before. The skeletons, I like taking and putting a little bit of the white paint on there. And because these are such small models, you want to be able to really kind of bring them out. You know, like such. And there you go. So then, after we've taken gold up the armbands, his nose ring, and such, I like to take a little new oil. I like to go into his teeth so it gets in between his gums, get that dry, onto the skeletons that we had did, so those stand out a little bit. Go over his axe. I like to put a little on his ponytail just to seal up the black, and then onto his brown brown cloak there, just so we can bring out a little more detail. And you can see how that gets in, I always say it, into the recesses there. And I'm going to leave the silver there because I don't want to get any of it on the red that I just painted on there. Go over, it's okay to go over the brown here and the handle, and just work that in there pretty good. And pretty much, there you have it. Let's grab the other little guy here, and as you see, now that we got the paint markings dried on his head, we'll just go take a little bit of new oil, go over the bow a bit, the brown bow. I mean, where he keeps his arrows. There we go. And we're going to come back over here onto there. Get onto his hair a bit. And just seal that all up. And with the white eyes and the teeth standing out, and you can see those markings from the pen marker. You know, that's a pretty small figure to get a lot of detail on, especially when you're talking about, you know, a anime type of creature that you want to keep kind of bright, because you want to stick with the theme of the whole thing. And you can see that both these guys are particularly bright, and we like to keep that way. And it's really, you know, there's not a lot of wash on here except for little certain areas. And there you go. So that's our first two figures. So let's send it back up top. Well, there you have it. We have our first couple of groups of monsters already done in our first week back on battling brushes. Be sure to check out Board Game Breakfast this Monday, and we'll learn more about the techniques that I showed today about the paint pens and how you can use them and how they can really help you out, especially for beginners who just don't have that comfortability with the brush, that you can use a paint pen to actually get some of the detailed areas and how effective it can be. So with that said, I look forward to seeing next week as we start working on some of these characters. So, Sam, why don't you take us out of here?
The Orc Marauders, the Goblin Archers, the Hammer Beastmen, and the Spear Beastmen for Arcadia Quest. Really neat looking models. They were not as difficult as I anticipated to paint. However, it still did take me a while. I don't know how Rob is. He's the master blaster though, so he probably turned them out in like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. But it took me a little bit longer. But it was really fun, and I hope you guys are having fun painting your miniatures. Until next month, this has been Rob Oren and Sam Healey, and you've been watching Battle and Brushes. Thanks, y'all. See you on the flip side.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.